Hi, my name is Anthony. I'm here today with cybrary.it. I'm your local subject matter expert here for A+, and today we're going to talk about installing and configuring storage devices. What are storage devices? Well, our computer has to have a place where it can store data, whether it be a program that we install or a Word spreadsheet that we're working on, or even videos or music that we put on our computer. And these storage devices can range anywhere from actual hard drives that we place inside of our computer to actual CD disks or USB devices. So let's go through a couple of them and talk about a little bit of the specifications for them, and then we can actually take a look at a few and maybe get a little bit more in-depth idea of what we're talking about. One of the first storage devices we want to talk about today are optical devices. Now, when we say optical devices, we mean things such as disks. Now, disks are considered optical devices because the information stored on them is actually stored using a laser which imprints onto the surface either a pit or a land onto the disk. Now, these pits and lands are then later reread by lasers which allow us to store the information on them. Now, not all disks are created equal. Some disks you can only read from. Those would be the disks such as this one that says DVD-R on it. And other disks you can actually read and write to. So you can take that disk and you can write information to it, and then you can read it on a computer later and you can overwrite it if you need to. But the read-only disks, you can, if you get one blank, you can only write to that disk once. A lot of times we'll also see these disks we'll receive when we say get programs. That way we can only read the information from the disk and we can't repurpose that disk for something else or rewrite the information that the manufacturer has already put onto that disk. Now, there's a few different types of disks that we have. The first one we're going to look at are actually CD-Rs and CD-RWs. CDs are the same size as all the other disks that we see, whether they're DVD or Blu-ray disks, and they come in a couple different formats. We have CD plus R, CD minus R, CD plus RW, or CD minus RW. Now, all of these different formats and the way that they're worded, the plus or the minus in between the CD and the R, or the CD and the RW, has to do with the way that the information is written onto the disk. And again, to reiterate, the R and the RW, if it's R, it's read-only, where we can write to that disk once, and then from then on, that disk is only read-only. Now, we can go back later and add more information to the disk, but once the disk is full, if it's a CD-R, it's full. It's completely done. Now, a single CD-ROM can hold up to 700 megabytes of data. Now, if we have a CD-RW, we can write up to that and then overwrite it later. But all in all, the amount of data that can be on that CD at one time is only 700 megabytes of data. Well, a lot of times we'll need something bigger. 700 megabytes of data is good for some Word documents, maybe a couple of pictures, but we need to add some full video, or say we want to actually install an operating system and put it on a disk. We actually now have DVDs, and DVDs we'll see in a similar format. We may see DVD-ROM, DVD-R, or DVD-RW. Exactly the same as with the CDs, DVD-R can be written to and read from, but it can only be written to once. And DVD-RW can actually be written to and read many times over, as many as we need it to. DVD-ROM is DVD read-only memory, where we may receive that DVD and it already has information on it, and we can't write to it. We can only read information from that DVD. A lot of times, again, DVDs you'll get from manufacturers, or say a DVD that you receive for a movie. That's going to be a DVD-ROM. You can't write to that DVD. It's completely full. It's protected. Now, DVDs come in a couple different layers. A single layer DVD actually has up to 4.7 megabytes of data that we can write to it. DVDs also come in multiple layer DVDs. So rather than just having a single layer of data that we can write onto them, we can write multiple layers of data onto that same DVD. The next layer up, if we have a dual layer DVD, we can write up to 8.4 gigabytes of data on that same DVD. Same size, same look, but the actual way that the DVD is manufactured allows us to write a significant more amount of data onto that to that DVD that's dual layer. These will be separate DVDs that you purchase. You can't buy just a single layer DVD and then try to format it as a dual layer. It has to be specified as a dual layer DVD. When you buy CDs or DVDs, you'll usually receive them in a large tower set, similar to this. Now, you can buy them in a large tower set, or you can buy them one at a time even, or maybe in packs that are a bit smaller than this. But if, say, you work for a large company and you know you'll be writing to DVDs or CDs a lot, you'll probably want to invest in a large tower. That way that you can just have them in your office and use them as you need to. Now, Blu-ray is our newest iteration of discs that we write to, our newest optical type discs. And they are even a higher step up than CDs and DVDs. We abbreviate Blu-ray disc BD, so Blu-ray disc -R, and that can only write up to one layer of information on that Blu-ray disc. So our Blu-ray disc -R, we can actually have up to 25 gigabits of data. Our next level of Blu-ray disc, which we Blu-ray disc -RE, allows us up to 50 gigabytes of data. Now, when we see up here, we have megabytes, and then, with our CDs, we see that we have 700 megabytes. And then when we look over here, we have gigabytes. Well, what's the difference between the two, rather than just the M or the G? Well, a gigabyte of data, or rather a single byte of data, consists of 8 ones or zeros, called bits. So you'll have a single one will be a bit. Then if we have 8 of these, then this will actually be a byte. So this is a bit, this single one, and our entire thing here would be a byte. Now, a kilobyte of data would be 1,000 bytes of data. So we would just multiply, we would have 1,000 of these bytes, and that would end up, obviously, with a kilobyte. Or, sorry, rather, approximately 1,000. It's exactly 1,024 bytes. But in generic terms, we'll say about 1,000. 1024 of these is a kilobyte. So then when we move up to megabyte, that's about 1,000 times a kilobyte. And then a gigabyte would be 1,000 times a megabyte. So we see that our difference here between 700 megabytes and 50 gigabytes is a vast storage difference. There's a lot more information on here, and just because this is 700 and this is 50, this is still several times higher amounts of data than this one would be here because of our increments that we have. Our CDs and our DVDs and our Blu-rays actually write at different speeds. We don't just have one standard speed that our information writes to our disks, nor can we just put our disk in our writeable drive and just have it all on there instantaneously. The laser actually has to take time to write the disk on the drive, which can be time consuming depending on the speed of the drive that we have. Now, drive speeds, the ones that we're going to mention, are going to be at what we consider 1x. So when you actually look at a disk drive, such as the one that you place your CD on your computer, you may notice that it says 1x, 2x, or 4x, or even 8x on it, just depending on the quality of the drive and how fast it can write the information onto there. Now, that helps us, especially if we're writing vast amounts of information onto our drive, because we need to get more on there quickly. So, our different types of media write at different speeds. The speeds that we're going to mention here are at 1x. So these are going to be our 1x speeds. So if you have a drive that says it writes at 4x, it'll be 4 times the speed that we list here. For CDs, our 1x speed is going to be 150 kilobytes per second. DVDs will actually be 1.35 megabytes per second. And then our Blu-ray discs are actually going to be 4.5 megabytes per second. So we can easily see how, especially with Blu-ray discs and DVDs, if we have a lot of data that we need to write on those disks, we don't want to spend hours and hours waiting for that data to go onto the disk. So rather than spending all that time, if we actually write information on disks a lot, we can invest in getting a higher speed read writer.